you are in that type of a financial situation, chances are you're pretty smart and savvy. And chances are you're not willing to just pay. Oh,
whoa,
my
boy.
gosh. He almost hit.
That was so much almost an accident.
That was a bad one.
That was, wow. Okay, so hey, let's just pretend we start. So let's
Wait,
go inside the marriage.
Start?
We're starting right now. This is it.
Okay.
A second ago, I started because I feel like it's important for everyone to know what's going on, because our mood may be affected. So we're driving back from a listing appointment in Winter Haven, and our son called 3 times during the listing appointment, and then he called 2 times while we're trying to shoot this video before.
Yes.
Because he wants pizza.
But he's sick. He's my baby and he's sick.
But he's also a jackass. So
No, he's not.
He is.
He's not.
We love him, but that's okay. He's our jackass, but we love him. So anyway, we got the pizza ordered now. He's also ordered Little Caesars.
So wait, you ordered Pizza Hut and then he ordered Little Caesars?
I ordered Domino's. Today's video brought to you by
Pizza.
Domino's.
Okay.
Pizza in general. Okay. So we're on. Also, the previous time we started to record.
I had a brilliant segue, by the way.
You did.
It was so good.
It was so good.
So good.
And maybe you'll do it again, and we'll pretend like it's original. But anyway, we're going to take you today. We're on Route 27 right now, coming out of Winter Haven, near Haines City and all that, and then we're headed toward the worst piece of road in Orlando, in our opinion, is the corridor of I-4 near Championsgate. It's always backed up.
Always.
It's never not backed up.
Right.
It could take us, to get where we're going, it could take us any time between 20 minutes and 4 years to get where we're going. And no one knows. It's a mystery. It can change. So anyway, but today we're also going to, so it's not really a residential tour today. We're going to talk about iBuyers today.
We
That's
are.
what we're going to talk about.
You're going to explain what an iBuyer is?
I'd love to.
Okay.
Okay. So it's such a bad mood.
Oh, it's okay.
It's okay. Anyway, so an iBuyer is basically Opendoor, Offerpad, Zillow is doing it now, where they will evaluate your home basically online and then give you a preliminary offer. I use that preliminary offer to buy your home without having to list it. We're going to give a couple stories about iBuyers that our clients have used recently to give you a sense of what's there. Want to start off by saying it can be a wonderful resource. A lot of realtors will tell you, "Oh, don't use that." Well, the reason they're saying that is because that's competition for us. We would love to have the listings, but spoiler alert, we're coming from a listing appointment right now where we told them to use the iBuyer.
Yeah, if that is truly the number. And, kind of to back it up a little bit, the source of the iBuyer kind of business model is definitely, well, it's money making on their end for sure, because they kind of monopolize the whole transaction. Yes. However, there can be a real convenience factor, especially, and I think this is kind of where it started, for those who are most desperate to sell.
Yes.
In a market that we're in right now, where we have such limited inventory, you don't need an iBuyer.
Right.
You don't. Your realtor is going to be able to market it and sell it for you, and probably save you on it.
Yes.
Than the iBuyer with their additional fees will. But there are times in people's lives where there are desperate situations, and they just don't have the time, or the energy, or the emotional capability of going through selling their home.
Yep.
And they just need to get it sold, and they need the money from it, and they need to move on.
And we always refer to the cost of that as a convenience fee.
Yes.
If you're willing to pay the convenience fee, which can be $10,000 or $20,000 or $30,000, right. Then great. With the listing appointment we just went to, though, we won't mention the iBuyer company because we don't want them to go, "Oh, are we making a mistake here?" and take their offer back, because they offered they're wrong about the value of the home. Yes. And that's no offense to the home. It's a beautiful home. Yeah. But they're way off. So as soon as she told us the number they were talking about, we said 2 things. We said, first of all, do that. Second of all, wait until you get the final number. So tell the story. Just you tell kind of what happened with that.
Yeah. So with this one, or with our other people?
With the other people first, and then I'll come back to the other one.
Okay. So here's the thing. So as we said, using an iBuyer, there is a convenience to it. So We have some clients that reached out to me to help them buy their new home.
Mm-hmm.
Now, they do have a home that they have to sell, contingent on selling, because they need the funds from the sale of their existing home to move on to their next home.
Mm-hmm.
So prior to reaching out to me to help them buy the new home, they had reached out to an iBuyer to discuss them selling their home to them so that they would not have the contingency. As we've discussed many times in these videos, in this particular real estate market that we're in, any type of a contingency is not desirable. Where you have multiple offer situations, you really need to be clean and easy breezy to be able to purchase the home. So that's why these particular clients reached out to an iBuyer to get an estimate for their home, and that's what they did. They were given an offer by an iBuyer of a specific amount. That specific amount also included the fees that were going to be associated with the sale of that home. Based on that number that they received, they were not under contract to do this yet, by the way. This was
Right.
just the initial reaching out inquiry phase. But it did have numbers that they were given. So based on the numbers, based on the net that they were expecting to make from the sale of their home to an iBuyer, we then took the next step to find them a new home to buy. We did. We found them a beautiful home. They contracted on it. They put an offer in. Our offer was accepted.
Mm-hmm.
We were under contract. They even had the inspection done. But right about the same time, I told my clients, the next step for you is to reach back out to that iBuyer and get your documents locked in and signed so that you have a closing date so that we can navigate these next steps as we go toward closing on their new home that they were purchasing. So it was about 2-3 days later, they got the final numbers from the iBuyer, and there was a $30,000 discrepancy, an additional source of fees
Right.
that were not disclosed in the initial offer.
They were hinted at in the initial
Hinted at,
offer,
yes.
but
Right.
so we use the term in other things, and we're not saying that's what this is, but bait and switch is a common sales technique that makes people upset. People that get upset with iBuyers is when they feel like it's a bait and switch. You told me I was going to get this much for my house. Now I've taken steps and I got my hopes up for that number. And so...
Right. Well, then I made plans based on that
right.
number.
And essentially the selling proposition there is they sell against realtors by saying, well, a realtor's you're going to have to pay 6% in real estate commissions because it's 3% for the listing agent and 3% for the buying agent.
Which, by the way, is not always true.
It's almost, in this particular market, that's almost not ever true.
Right.
Sometimes it's 2.5.
Right.
It depends on
Each situation.
Is the listing agent helping you buy your new house? There's a lot of things that can happen that adjust that. And by the way, those fees are negotiable, but they sell against the highest possible. Because, by the way, there are some realtors that charge 4 and 5% to list your home in other parts of the country because of the marketing that's required and all that. So that's a negotiable thing. But they sell against the highest possibility and they build in their lowest possibility. So Zillow will say it's a 3% fee, and that's their real estate fee. That's the thing they're selling against. Someone like Opendoor does 5%. They say it's a maximum of 5%. It's 5%. So, and it used to be as much as 10%. Well, how are they doing that with their business model? Well, the secondary thing, which is what affected these particular clients, is they'll say, and then we have to come inspect your home and look at it, and then there may be repair charges or whatever that is. And that's where the switch comes in, because the offer that you expected is not the offer that you got. Right. By the way, I'm sure everyone's enjoying looking at the back of this truck. We can try to go around them. We got 2 miles till the exit on the worst road ever.
No, I have 0.3.
Oh, okay. Well, then never mind.
I need to get over.
Yeah, I guess so. Okay, cool. I thought it said 2 miles, but it lied. Okay. Anyway, it was a bait and switch. 2 miles. No, it's 0.3 miles. So that's where. So we are not the realtors that are going to tell you don't call an iBuyer. It is part of the marketplace now. It is. But it's a trust but verify situation.
Right.
It's don't go into it assuming they're going to give you this big offer, this big number, and then all of a sudden that's what you're going to get, because maybe you will.
It almost never is the same number.
I'm not ever aware of a time it's ever been the same number they gave you first.
And I will tell you, and this is one of those things where you probably don't care about it because you've sold your home. So big whoop to you. You've sold your home. You've got your money. You could care less what happens to your home and the experience that anyone else has. But I will tell you, as a realtor that has shown some of these homes, there's no human that's helpful. There's no one around that is able to answer the questions.
Okay.
They're not servicing you like you would expect. Now, again, you probably don't care because you've sold your home, but it does matter. A client that we just left earlier, it was really about having a human interaction and conversation about it. Technology is a wonderful thing. The ability to do things with a literally click of a button on your phone.
Yep.
There's some benefits at times, but I will tell you that there's really nothing better than having human interaction and being able to discuss and negotiate and to kind of, be real.
Yeah, quick switch.
Switch it, baby.
Welcome to the worst road.
Oh,
in
yes.
the world.
You can already see it's the worst road.
You're like, hey,
it's
traffic is flowing.
Yeah,
but
no, it's
we're recording this at 1:47 on a Friday.
Yeah.
And look at the traffic that's backed up. So for the next 2 miles, it's going to be like this. And this is actually not bad.
No, this isn't bad.
This is as good as I've ever seen it, and it's horrible.
And this isn't even the entrance that we...
So you're going to see a lot of just
Brake
video
lights.
of trucks
brake lights
and things. So this is why we tell you don't get on I-4.
Right.
That's why we tell you that. So
And
this is the drawback.
Yes.
For this part of the area is we're going now towards Disney and towards Orlando from further out west, and this is what you deal with. So we'll deal with that while we talk about more iBuyer-y stuff. So
Yes.
I'll go back to the other story.
Okay.
And then we'll tell the story of a client we represent that bought one of those homes too.
Yes. Oh, yeah,
So
very true.
So the lovely woman that we just spoke to about listing possibly her home, again, we're not the realtors that are going to tell you don't call an iBuyer, because when she told us the number that they said, in 3 seconds said, you should do that.
Well, if that is indeed the number. But
Yes.
here's the thing. It was so far off from our data, our data,
Yes.
our valuations, closed
Yep.
comps in the area, in the neighborhood. It was so far off of that I'm like, they made a mistake. You better snag it.
Yeah, and even if they
In a good way
come
for
back,
the seller, by the
even
way.
if they come back and say, well, there's going to be a $25,000 repairs fee, it's fine.
She
Still
was still
way
in great
ahead.
shape.
Still way ahead.
Yeah.
And so, we're not going to. And here's by the way, here is the danger zone, and why you should still if you choose to call an iBuyer, you should still call a realtor.
Yes.
And ask them for a dispassionate look at the numbers, because what happens is a realtor might come and tell you, don't tell your realtor the number that the iBuyer gave you until they give you their number. And here's why I'm telling you that. Because if we were desperate for business, then we could have absolutely said to her, we'll list it for what their offer is. And we'll reduce our fees and commissions so that you make more money with us. You know what? No, we're not going to do that, because that's not the market value of that home to anybody but an iBuyer is not that high. So we don't want that listing at that number, because it's not.
Well, as always, you've got appraisal issues.
Yes.
And it's, unless you are a cash buyer and you could care less if you've overspent on a property, which by the way, this is my theory, if you are fortunate enough to have hundreds of thousands of dollars of accessible cash,
As you all are,
of course,
Yeah.
if you are in that type of a financial situation, chances are you're pretty smart and savvy, and chances are you're not willing to just pay. Oh,
Whoa,
my gosh,
boy.
he almost hit.
that was so much almost an accident.
That was a bad one.
That was, wow.
Ooh,
Because he's just driving up the shoulder there.
Yeah, man. Oh,
There's another car up there.
goodness.
Now he's zooming into traffic. Wow.
Wow.
Not a Touron,
Not
because it's a work
Touron,
truck.
It's a work truck. But anyway,
Sorry.
I don't even know where I was going. That scared me a little bit.
Oh, yeah, no, that was not pleasant. Although disappointing, because
Stop. What was I
we
talking
would have
about?
had that on video.
What am I talking about?
You were talking about that the value of the homes, and we were talking about we wouldn't list it for that price anyway. So
I lost it. It was a really good thing.
it was so good, but instead that person ruined it because
well, stop talking about it. Maybe it'll come back in my brain.
Okay, we'll just sit here for a minute.
I don't know. Anyway.
So in any case, so where we are with that particular client is we've said, look, call them, get them to come out and do their inspection.
Right. And get the final
number. And then we're going to help her buy a new home.
Oh, I know what I was going to say.
Go, do it.
Okay, cash. All right, so if you are a cash buyer and you have hundreds of...
Sorry.
There's never going to be a time where you don't do...
Never.
Okay. Okay, now I was thinking that never let you forget you're a man because I'm a woman. That song.
And that is true. You do bring home the bacon. You fry it up in a pan. You never let me forget. Sometimes I'm like, am I a man? And she's like, no, you are a man. Don't forget.
Stop!
And I'm like, okay.
Okay. All right, cash.
Jolie.
Okay. Now I was going to say, what was the perfume? Jolie, that's it.
I'm so stupid. Cash.
Cash. Don't do it. All right, so my point is, if you have all that money cash, you were probably smart and savvy with it. You didn't just probably luck into it.
Right.
Probably. In which case, you're probably not really willing to just willy-nilly pay ridiculous over the appraisal amount because that puts you in... Most people want to buy a home because they want to have some equity in it, right? You don't want to, have to wait a few years to break even. Anyway, so the appraisal is the other issue that you always have to deal with because a home still has to appraise. Mm-hmm. And that kind of leads us to the one that you were, I think, going to reference, the other client that just closed actually on
and so the house doesn't have to appraise for an iBuyer because they're just buying it. They're paying cash for it.
Right.
There's not going to be an appraisal. Now here's where
I think they still get one, don't they?
No, because the bank needs the appraisal. They're the bank. They've got the funds. But here's the trick. Mm-hmm. People are like, why are housing prices going up and up and up and up and up? Here's why. So let's just say hypothetical house, and I'm sort of modeling this after our previous conversation. These are not the actual numbers, but let's say. Okay. Let's say the house is worth $400, and they offer $500 for the house. Okay. They've offered, and again, I'm modeling this. They didn't offer that much over, but let's just say for round numbers, the house is worth $400 on the open market. They offer $500. Then they charge fees that get actually the net down to what it would have been at $420, right?
Yep.
So they're still kind of overpaying for the house, but not by what it is. But when that house goes into the multiple listing service, when it goes into public record, that house sold for $500,000. Right. Now that affects future appraisals, and we say so it's a 3,000 square foot house that just sold for $500,000. It's not worth that. But now in the marketplace, there's a comparable for $500,000 for that thing. So the next person that's selling looks and says, okay, well, I guess my house, I have the same floor plan, the same model house. I'm 3 doors down, and I have a pool, and they don't. Therefore, my house is worth $500,000 plus the value of my pool. And they're right, and they're wrong. Right. So you see how that steps up the value of these homes falsely. It's not real because they're not actually paying $500,000 for that house, but that is the sale price of the house. So that's a little explanation, by the way, and it's a little scary. About why we're escalating that, because if 10% of the homes that are being sold are iBuyers these days, it's approaching that number. 10% of the houses are actually selling for less than what it's going in the public record as, and that's driving up the prices. So, and so this was the point you were hoping I was going to get to, was that, so now let's say that your house, they come out and they look at it and they go, well, the house really needs to be painted, and it's going to cost $7,000 to paint the house, so we're going to reduce they don't reduce your offer, they don't reduce the sales price, right? They add another fee. So they add $7,000 as a debit from you and a credit to them on the sale. Let's say it's $500,000. So now at that $500,000 offer, they're taking 5% for the service fees. They're taking another 10% for repairs. And they go, and then on top of that, we're going to take another $7,000 because it needs to be painted. Are they going to paint the house? after they buy it?
Most likely not.
No, they're not. They're not going to paint the house. They're going to sell it then to the next person,
Right.
and they're going to go, oh, and by the way, it needs to be painted.
Right.
So, and that's exactly what happened with
A recent closing
we had. By the way, fantastic house,
Yeah.
and this is a happy story.
It is a happy
Our client
story.
got the perfect house for a very good price.
And a great community.
Yeah, and this was in the middle of the huge bidding war thing and all that. We're so proud of them because we kind of talked them through the strategy of what to do, and we bid over the list price. The house was owned by an iBuyer, so they had bought it from the previous owner, and by the way, in this case, you looked at it and said, wait, they're selling this house for $1,000 less than they paid for it, right? Well, yeah, but not
really.
$1,000 less than the sales price, but not $1,000 less than they paid for it, because they actually had paid probably $80,000 less than that for the convenience fee of doing that.
Right.
But so we were like, okay, well, we'll offer a little more so we can win the bidding war, which we won by $500. First of all, but then we had already seen the house, obviously, and we knew it was the thing. But inside there was the previous owner had a dog who had scratched the garage door all up. You know, it needed to be painted. There's a couple things the house needs. I promise you that the iBuyer to the previous owner discounted what they paid them because they were like, well, we're gonna have to paint that door.
Right.
We're gonna have to replace that door frame, but they didn't do it.
Right.
So ultimately, what happened in our case is the house didn't appraise. So, which was a surprise. We knew it wouldn't appraise for what we offered because we were in a bidding war, but it appraised for even lower than what we thought it would appraise for.
It was lower than their asking price, wasn't it?
Yes.
Yeah.
And so ultimately, our buyer got to reduce what they paid for the house.
Right. Which was another happy.
Right. So that
thing for
again,
us.
happy there too. But the point is, all of that negotiation and fees with these iBuyers, it's not really about the sales price. Is not what ultimately they paid
Right.
for the house.
Right.
You have to turn that around now. If you are the seller selling to them, you have to recognize that your equity is their business model. Okay? They're making money. The more they can take from your equity
Yeah.
and not give to you, the more money they make. Now, they don't care, by the way, and this is not a negative thing. This is called, today's word is arbitrage. So arbitrage is a word that I can't really define, except I know what it is. I'll put it on the screen, the actual definition. But
Okay.
basically, they're finding the value, and they're trying to pay you a little less than that, so they can make the money on the difference. Okay, capitalism. That's what it is. It's capitalism, and it's fine. By the way, we're off the worst road in the world. We're now
We're on 429. We're heading into the. We'll be coming across Four Seasons, which is
Yep.
a 55 plus community. It'll be out on our right here
Yep.
shortly.
And I didn't hook up my phone on the
Oh,
side.
yeah.
Well, we knew we were gonna be in this traffic, not in a residential. So,
Yeah.
but it's Margaritaville's over there, and Four Seasons and all that's coming up. But anyway,
Yes.
and I think we're almost done.
We are
talking about
almost
it. But anyway, so just know the bottom line with an iBuyer is you should call them if you're considering selling your home and you think that, hey, you can get this big offer, but the offer is not the offer, okay?
And you need to know that.
You've got to go further down the line and get a professional that knows the market. Here's the value of this lady. She has lots of value. This is the value relative to iBuyers. She knows this market, okay? You are, when you get an offer from an iBuyer, you're getting an offer from a computer in San Francisco. That's what you're getting.
Yeah.
So they don't know, and so by the way, sometimes they make a mistake in your favor,
Right.
which they just did for our client there. Sometimes they make a mistake that's not in your favor. So get a second opinion. You would not take a medical diagnosis from a computer in San Francisco. You'd go see a doctor and maybe you get a second opinion. So call a realtor, a local realtor that knows the market,
Yes.
and choose your realtor. Don't let your realtor choose you. Find somebody that you trust, and if they are truly a good professional, they'll tell you whether your iBuyer offer is good.
Right.
Because we just did that. We just said
did.
no. We don't.
And
We won't list it. Do that.
With full disclosure that we don't know if that really is. I mean,
Yeah.
her understanding is that is the final number.
Right. It's not.
I still
Yeah,
have some
it's
questions. But the other thing is that ask your realtor, whoever, wherever you are, if it's here, me. And when we do the listing appointments, we provide, and your realtor should very easily provide for you, an estimated seller's net sheet.
Yes.
And that estimated seller's net sheet, we say estimated because obviously there's some things that we're putting in there that we don't know. For instance, the home is not sold. We don't know when the closing date is.
And the closing date can mean some dollars one way or the other.
So when certain fees are prorated, then that could fluctuate slightly. But the big numbers aren't. The standard closing cost fees that are going to be different from every area across the country, even in different areas in Florida. When I punch in the number, I do it right through the title company that we use. So the numbers should match, and it will auto-populate or auto-generate those numbers for like stamps. All
stamps
that,
on the
transfer
fee,
fee, title search, liens, all that stuff. Those fees that are a required part of closing costs will be filled in. And then I enter in the other aspects, which is the commission aspect for both the listing agent and the buying agent. And then that will deduct everything. We can even put in how much you still owe on your mortgage.
Yep.
Have your realtor do that. And that is going to give you a much more realistic representation of what you truly are going to be at the end of the day when you close on your home, how much you should expect to net. And unfortunately, that's not really something that the iBuyers will give you a line item description of, and that can lead to some confusion and some disappointment. And in my client's case, some real heartache.
Yeah.
Because their spirits were up because we had a home.
Yes.
And then they tanked because we didn't.
And be dispassionate about the numbers, as dispassionate as you can, because just another story that doesn't involve an iBuyer, but involved some heartache after the fact or some worry. Everything worked out great. We had another client that we gave them the dispassionate. Nobody has a tour on up there. I don't know if you can see it. Yeah. We dispassionately gave them the numbers and said, "This is what the marketplace says that your home is worth.
Right.
We think we can sell it for actually more than that," which we did. But then the neighbors got in their ear and said, "Oh my, that's too low. Your house is worth $100,000 more than that." Well, that's
not true.
First of all, it wasn't true. Second of all, because by the way, dispassionately later, we got them a really good deal because it was over the appraisal. So the neighbors don't know what they're talking about.
Right.
Okay.
So call someone who does,
Yeah.
and don't do the Facebook gossip of your community. Yeah. Just because your neighbor, I was talking about this earlier too. People that, and by the way, there could be some people that are completely thrilled and had a wonderful experience with an iBuyer. I do not doubt that for a second.
I promise you there are.
I'm sure there are. But I also am just as sure that there are people who feel like they got totally suckered and are not gonna own it.
Right.
They're going to say,
yeah.
"Oh yeah, I got
It
X
was
amount
great.
for my home, and they only charged me 1%," and that's not true.
Your neighbor's not going to go, "Oh,
Yeah.
I got fleeced on this one."
Right.
They're not ever going to say that.
They're not going to say that. So,
but again, it can be a really good thing.
It can
and
be.
we want to, we're not saying it's a bait and switch. We're not saying that. We're saying it can sometimes feel that way if you don't wait for the last offer. But it can be good. It's just a convenience fee.
Right.
If you're paying them more money out of your equity than you would have listing it with a realtor, then it's a convenience fee. Then if it was worth $10,000 or $20,000 to you to not have to list your home, not have to have showings, not have to,
right,
great. But I would tell you the other way. If I offered to pay you $20,000 to get your house cleaned up and have a few showings, would that be worth it? If it would, then you should probably list it instead, or at least get the apples to apples comparison before you sign that contract with an iBuyer. That's all I have to say, except for cash. That's in my head now. Thanks.
Okay. Yep. All right. I'm hungry.
Yeah. Well, we ordered pizza before for our son, so there'll be pizza at home.
Yeah, I want pizza.
Okay. Do what you feel.
All right, guys.
So, hey, bye.
Well, we appreciate you watching again. Stay safe, stay well. We love you. Happy day, happy house hunting. See you soon.